but I want to be respectful of time, and I've got a lot of information to share. So I'm just going to hop right in. And as people start trickling in, I will pause and let everyone in as I'm able to. But anyhow, good morning. It's still good morning out here in California. I want to thank each and every one of you for sharing your Sunday with me. I feel it's very special. I am very grateful. I am very grateful that you guys have joined me on this Sunday. Many of you I know, thank you. Many of you are my students. Many of you have participated in previous webinars and are joining me again. I'm grateful for that. If I look familiar to some of you, I am an actor, so you might have seen me in a project or two. However, that which fills my life with purpose, that which truly brings me alive, lies in honoring my ancestral practices. I am an urban shaman. I practice lukumi. Lukumi, in essence, combines the wisdom of the Native American tribes with the African tribes that were brought to the Americas through the transatlantic slave trade. To us, it's earth-based spiritual practices. So to us, two things are most sacred, and that is nature and our ancestors. We say if we stand tall, it is because we stand in the shoulders of our ancestors looking up at the Orishas. Orishas are personification of the forces of nature that balance and harmonize all inherently conflicting processes throughout the multiverse. They are that which make the physical possible and balance everything from the physical to the metaphysical. And we honor that to over time to ensure that these ancient practices, this wisdom, survive to reach individuals like me today. It became necessary to cloak these earth-based spiritual practices, these ancestral earth-based spiritual practices within the Christian framework. And with that, the Orishas then become known as saints, the Christian saints. In Spanish, we call this santos. So we then become known as santeros. So I am, in fact, a santero. And I personally believe that in this now, we are called to blend this ancient wisdom with practical tools. Hi, Jessica, I see you. Matt is joining. I'm proud of that. With practical tools so that we can better address our modern needs. And that is exactly, Matt, how you doing? Good to see you again. That's exactly what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to be sharing some stuff that's very practical that you can utilize right away. I will be sharing also some rituals that will help you cope with the heartache, the grief, whatever you're doing. And before we move on, I just want to clarify who this webinar is for. Just in case you're wondering, is this for me? Is it not for me? So let me clarify. I see you, Maria. So if you are grappling, I'm going to actually, let's see, I'm going to mute all to make it nice and quiet for all of us. There. So if you are grappling with profound pain, aching in your soul from a heartbreak, from a deep sorrow of losing a loved one, whether this pain comes from, a relationship that recently ended in your life, or you are mourning the passing of a loved one. I designed this webinar for you to offer you solace, understanding, and some innovative strategies that will help you navigate your emotions. So if right now you are feeling lost, you are feeling overwhelmed or even numb with what you're experiencing, what you're going through, and maybe questioning how to move forward, wondering if it's even possible to find joy, to find love again in the midst of the chaos that you're feeling, I'm here to remind you that healing is within reach and that you are not alone in this journey. We are one. I know your pain because I have experienced your pain. We all have. We all have experienced the pain of love and loss. None of us are exempt. And we are united by our collective experiences, but also by our collective strength. And this is why we come together today. Grief is a universal experience, yet it is deeply personal. To help us better understand grief, how it impacts us, and how to move through it with strength and resilience, I have organized today's webinar into 3 sections. We will begin by first defining grief in its many forms. It's not just about death, it's also about the end of relationships. And forgive me if I pause here and there. I'm a one-man show, so I gotta let people in the waiting room. So we will begin defining grief in its many forms, because it's not just about passing of a loved one, but it's also about the end of significant relationships. It's also about the end of significant life changes that come into our life. It could be the loss of dreams or opportunities, and that causes us to grieve because we've been planning all along on this situation, this opportunity, and then it just sort of goes away. And we'll also discuss how grief manifests in our bodies and our minds, from physiological distress to emotional upheaval. Why? Why am I doing this? Because understanding what grief truly is and acknowledging its presence is the first step toward healing. So we're going to cover the 5 stages of grief. Grief is a journey. And it's marked by distinct stages. So I'm going to share 5 distinct stages of grief. And those of you who know me personally know that 5 is a magic number for me. So ultimately, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the 5 distinct stages of grief. And I'm going to share 5 innovative strategies and rituals that you can implement right away to begin feeling better right away. And that is my goal for today. However, as we discuss the different stages of grief, I feel it's important to note that these stages are not linear, nor do they follow a set timeline. It's not a 1, 2, 3 thing, So we are going to dwell into each stage, and we're going to explore what it looks like, what it feels like, because by understanding the stages, what's going to happen is you're going to gain insight into your own emotional landscape. And this is what's going to help you navigate your feelings with greater clarity and compassion. You're not going to be stuck thinking, why am I feeling this way? You are, in fact, going to understand that stage that you're feeling, that frustration, that fogginess, that weight, that aching in your soul, in your heart, it feels very physical. That is a normal part of the process. And what that's going to do is that it's truly going to help you move forth with greater clarity and greater self-compassion. Knowledge alone isn't enough. We have to be able to apply it. And to apply it, we need practical tools that will help us through these dark times. Therefore, as I shared, I will be sharing with you all 5 different strategies that you guys can utilize. But before we dive in, before I continue, I want to do a bit of housekeeping. We are family. So if you need a potty break, if you need a snack, you need a cocktail, whatever you need, go for it. We're grown folks and you're okay. I'm recording this webinar, and all registrants will be receiving a link to the replay. Now, those of you who have joined me in previous webinar, though, that I have often messed up and made promises that I'm going to send a replay and a link, and then realized that I never recorded. The last webinar I did, we were like towards the end, and somebody reminded me that I wasn't recording. So today, today I have made damn sure that I'm recording. It's embarrassing making all these promises and then not being able to deliver. So we are good for today. Anyhow, the energy of number 5 rules my life. I was born in the 5th year, on the 5th day, and raised by 5 powerful women. This makes me very sensitive, also very sensual. The number 5 represents the spirit of life and love. And in honor of this, I like to always share 5 practices that I like to be observed in my webinars. And ultimately, I used to share these practices when I used to do in-person workshops, retreats. But the first is us making a commitment, a personal commitment to speak our truth. There's nothing weird about your truth. You are okay. We are all okay. Our thoughts, our cravings, our desires, our kinks are all okay. We're grown folk, and this is a safe space for us to really dialogue about anything that comes up. We will practice non-judgment. Because the greatest expression of love is to observe another without judgment. Why? Why is this important? Because the other is our own self. There's an ancient Mayan greeting that speaks to this, and it's in Lakesh Alakim. And that basically means, I am another you, and you are another me. This is the same esoteric truth that is shared when we say namaste to each other. In essence, it is the divine in me honors the divine in you. And in essence, this is so because we understand that the kingdom of heaven is within us. Number 3 is we're going to stand in our power. And we're going to take responsibility for protecting ourselves. The chat is open. And I encourage you all to share support, to connect with each other. But do set whatever boundaries you need to protect yourself at all times, because today we are going to stand in our power. We're going to speak our truth, and we're going to practice non-judgment. We are a family going through a collective experience. And number 4 is we're going to participate, because in all things in life, we get what we put into it. So my task, in essence, as a facilitator, becomes then of creating a safe and sacred container where we all feel safe to be and express ourselves. But ultimately, we are the content. We are pieces of the puzzle solving itself. We have come together in this way. So please, turn on your cameras, let me see you, and participate as much as possible, even as with a thumbs up, a smile. It's always so much better for me. Thank you, Gabby. So much better for me when I'm looking at smiling faces, or at least a nod or something, instead of just a photo or something. So I really appreciate that, and particularly if someone takes a moment to share. This is very important. Now, dependent on how we're doing on time, I may stop at the end of each section and answer questions. However, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. I plan to end on time. Therefore, if I'm running short on time, what I will do is that at the end, I would do Q&A to answer any specific questions and dive in and make sure that you get the nourishment you need in this moment. But I do encourage you that as the questions come up, to write them in the chat. And what I'll do at the end of the section, if I have the time, is I will go through the chat and see if there's any questions that have been asked and answer them in that way. The other thing that does is that if you're anything like me, sometimes I have this brilliant thought. And if I don't act on it in the moment, I just forget it. slips right out. And I don't want that to happen. I don't want you to have this brilliant question, then forget it. The webinar ends and you're like, darn it, I didn't get to ask my question. So just go ahead and put it in the chat. Doesn't matter the order, anything, we're just going to go through it and work it out to ensure that you in fact get everything that you hope to get out of this webinar. So just don't feel shy or bad in any way. Just do it. Hey, good to see you, Jessica. So with that out of the way, let's dive in and walk this path of recovery and renewal together. Heartbreak and loss are profound, but so is our capacity to heal. But to do so, it is essential that we understand the nature of grief. Hi, Jasmine. Good to see you. Understand the nature of grief. As I shared, grief is a universal experience, yet profoundly personal. It touches every aspect of our being. Therefore, there is great benefit in exploring what grief truly is, how it impacts and manifests in our life. Grief is an anguish that we experience after a significant loss. This loss could be the death of a loved one, the end of a relationship, or, as I mentioned, even the loss of a dream or an opportunity. It's not just an emotional state, but it's a multifaceted experience that affects us in many levels. Biologically, a lot of people don't know this, but we just question why we feel like when we're experiencing grief or we're experiencing heartache, we feel it physically. Like there's something hurting inside of us and we just can't touch it. And for me, it's even more frustrating because if I'm out and about and I bang myself and I get a bruise, I can see the bruise. But when I'm processing the aching, the pain of a heartache, of a loss, I can't physically touch my boo-boo. My boo is inside. And that makes it tougher. But the fact is that our bodies reacts to grief similar to the way it does in physical pain. The brain responds by releasing stress hormones like cortisol. And then this actually manifests in the physical pain, the physical symptoms that we feel. So we feel this tightness in our chest, this heaviness, like we just can't breathe. It gives us trouble breathing. We feel fatigued and headache. The whole body just hurts, and we can even lose our appetites. Sometimes the only thing good that comes out of grieving is that we might lose a little weight. Because we don't feel like eating no more. On the other side, some folks feel like eating a lot when they're not feeling right. So that leads to weight gain. Psychologically, it's another mixed bag of emotions. We have sadness, we experience separation anxiety as we feel this deep longing to be with the person or in the situation that no longer is. But we just sitting there wishing somehow that we can turn back the hands of time or change the outcome. And this just creates this overwhelming yearning within us. And that makes it hard for us to focus and get anything done. We're just like sitting, like we have a million things to do, and just thinking about it is just overwhelming. So we just do nothing. You just kind of like just lay there, like us, like it's just so overwhelming. We just lay there confused, disoriented, just unable to concentrate on a thing, to make a decision. It's like we're just in this heavy fog, and our mind is just replaying memories repeatedly, searching for answers, reliving the moments, both good and bad, and second guessing us of maybe if I hadn't gone and done this, maybe if I would have done that. We're just kind of like stuck in this place. And in addition, we feel apprehensive about the future, feeling fear, feeling anxiety of what lies ahead. Um, Without the person, the relationship we've lost, the opportunities we've lost. So we're just overwhelmed by this feeling of uncertainty, this fear. You see, heartbreak is a unique form of grief. Um, when we lose uh, 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 a loved one through a death, this individual is gone. So in some ways, uh, losing or when a relationship ends, it can be that much more powerful, that much more difficult to process. And it triggers, a cascade of emotional responses that are similar to when we lose someone to death, transition into the other side. But what I feel amplifies that experience is that person is still alive, you know? So as we're processing the loss of the relationship, you know, we don't have that finite thing where, this person has transitioned, has died. This person is still, moving about. We're just somehow not a part of their life. They're not a part of our life. And we're just feeling broken, not just losing uh, the individual, the relationship, but also the dreams, all the plans, the future that you envisioned, and that creates a cascading effect of loss and ache that spans multiple levels, making it complex emotional challenge to overcome because that person is still alive. Perhaps they've even moved on to someone else. And the truth is that, we log into social media and the IG algorithm doesn't give a fuck about our feelings. Right away. It shows us, our ex with their new lover, vacationing here and there. And we got to deal with that stuff. You know? Um, so this is stuff that we need to process when we are dealing with the loss of a relationship to ensure that we do not become obsessed and start stalking these individuals, that apparently seem so happy with their new lover and unaffected by the breakup as you yourself have. Then you're just sitting there, you know, what does she or he have that I don't have? It makes us feel inadequate. It makes our self-esteem dip even lower and further. And all of this, what does this do? It disrupts our immune system. And it makes us more susceptible to illness, from common colds to more severe conditions that are stress related. And because we're not sleeping, we're not eating, we're probably eating real shitty if we do, and all of that stuff then affects our health, with culminates with this heaviness that we're feeling and this pain, this aching that we are trying to process. So then it all becomes a monumental task, because part of what happens is then we may perhaps experience self-neglect, because when we're in this deep fog processing grief, basic self-care is not something that we're really concerned with. So it might be 2 p.m. and we still haven't brushed our teeth. We're running around the house looking like hell, and all of this just makes us feel worse. We're neglecting our health. We're neglecting our hygiene, and we are neglecting our overall well-being. And then what happens? We are feeling so shitty, so terrible, so bad in every way, shape, or form that we begin to have suicidal thoughts. Why is this life? Is it worth living? We begin to seriously consider this. My high school sweetheart was my first love. Um, like most great loves, I didn't see it coming. I just kind of stepped in. I was a high school jock, pretty popular, good looking dude, thinking my dick was gold. And here comes this pretty Puerto Rican, stepping into my life and rocking my world. And I came to realize I was just a stupid boy. And she was intoxicating to me. She was like a drug. I became a junkie for her love and affection. I would have done anything for her. I quit football. I pissed on my scholarships, and I truly became devoted to her. And I wanted to marry her. I wanted to make babies with this woman. I started working at a factory. We moved in together. I used to leave school and go straight to work because I was set on building a life with this woman. And ultimately, she had me wrapped around her finger. I would have done anything she asked of me. And here's the interesting thing: when you are so consumed in a relationship, everyone and their mother is telling you that that person ain't shit, that that person ain't good for you, but you don't see it. So, yes, all of my sisters, all of my friends were pointing out the obvious to me, but I just didn't see it. I used to drop her off at her cousin's house so they can hang out, so they can go to the mall. And I would later find out that this wasn't her cousin at all. This was just another one of her lovers. And I was just a sucker for love, you know? And ultimately, when she tired of me, uh, just as abruptly as she came into my life, she left and moved with another. And that was heartbreaking to me. The years we spent together, the dreams that we gave birth to together, and for her to just move on like it never happened. Um, and I had never experienced anything like that. I was in shock. I tried bargaining with her. That didn't work. And I just became incredibly depressed and experiencing bouts of anger, rage, and isolation. And ultimately, this culminating with me wanting to die. I didn't want to live anymore. And I seriously began to plot my own death. And the truth is that if it hadn't been for divine intervention, I wouldn't be here with y'all today. So when I said in the beginning that I know your pain, trust that I solemnly do. This is why I put this webinar together. As I share these past couple of months, I have experienced incredible synchronicity with folks coming to me with the weight of their grief, the weight of the loss that they have been processing. And this is why I've done this. And I truly hope that you find some comfort, that you find some value in this webinar. Now, to speak on the 5 stages of grief, as I mentioned, the grieving process is deeply personal, but it is also marked by distinct stages. Each stage brings on its own set of emotions and challenges. By understanding these stages, we then gain insight into our own experiences so that we can better navigate our feelings with greater self-compassion and awareness. And we're going to discuss the 5 basic stages, but again, I just want you all to be mindful that these stages unfold over time and are not linear. We may experience a stage and we might do so in like a different order. We might feel that we've moved to another stage, and then we find ourselves going back. to that stage again and revisit them. We might skip some entirely, ultimately because each individual's journey is uniquely personal. But again, I'll say it again, understanding these stages can provide us comfort, can provide us clarity as we move through our own grief. The first stage is denial. It's shock. This is the initial response, whether it's the relationship that ended, where is a loved one has passed away. Initially, we're just like in shock. We just can't believe it happened. This is, in essence, the stage when the reality of the situation hasn't fully sunk in. You know, we might just find it hard to accept that the relationship ended, that the loved one passed away, and we're just sort of feeling numb. Interestingly enough, yesterday, as I logged into Facebook, a gal posted, she's saying, I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse to feel completely numb when it feels like your world is crumbling around you. Now, I was pressed for time, so I just, did a quick message to her, a quick response. And I shared that it, in essence, is a temporary blessing. And, please join me for tomorrow's webinar. I'm not sure if she followed through and actually joined. But in essence, this is the truth. This stage acts as a protective shield. So that numbness that we're feeling is actually good. This is our body, our psyche protecting us and numbing us from the experience to allow us time to process gradually the experience. The next stage that we might experience after we have this initial shock and numbness is anger and blame. This is where we start pointing fingers. Once this initial shock wears off, and it can manifest as resentment, frustration, or even rage. This anger can be directed towards yourself. Oh, I should have done this, I've done that. I'm so stupid. I always do this, this, or it could be directed at your ex. Oh, this person's such an asshole. This, whatever. Or perhaps you're angry at God, the universe, the divine. Why did you allow this? Why did you take him or her? And there's just this anger. It's just all irrational. So important to know is this anger that you're feeling, this frustration, is completely normal and part of the process. However, it's important to find healthy ways to express and manage this anger. Like you can't hop in the car, like, once upon a time it made news with this woman put on some diapers and drove cross country to kill her ex. Don't do some stuff like that. You have to find healthy ways to cope. So we have this initial shock and awe, this numbing, we have this anger. And then another stage that comes up is a bargaining stage. This is where we find ourselves wishing, hoping that things can go back. This is the stage where we are really thinking, what if I would have done that? If only I would have this and that. And we begin to fantasize about different scenarios of their relationship or situations. It could have worked different, things that we could have done different to make it work, or to not play the fool as long as we did. This is also the place where we make all sorts of promises, whether it's to ourselves, to our lover, or to God. God, if you fix this one for me, and I promise you. We've all been there, making all sorts of promises. This is called the bargaining stage, and this is in essence an internal desire to regain control of the situation or change the outcome. And while it's natural to engage in bargaining as a way to cope. Uh, it's also important to recognize that these thoughts, they're unproductive. They're not going to change a damn thing. What is, is. So we need to acknowledge our feelings of regret and what if, but also remind ourselves, not you, not me, not anybody. You change the past. What has been done has been done. What has been said, and what's transpired has transpired. And then we must focus instead on acceptance, accepting the present moment and finding ways to move forward. And another stage is depression and isolation. That is when the reality of the matter sits in. Like, this is really what it is. Like, I will never have this life with this person, or this person is not going to be around to see the babies graduate, or blah, blah, blah. You know, this is, in essence, when we begin to process and understand that this is pretty finite. And then what transpires, we then feel this deep sadness, this depression. And this stage can be the longest stage. This is the stage where we usually withdraw from social activities, where we seek solitude to process the loss, the pain that we're feeling. Anxiety about the future is also very common during this stage, as we're feeling overwhelmed by loneliness, by despair. We find it difficult to envision a future without this individual in our lives. There was a lover, perhaps you're thinking, like, I have to go into dating apps now. Like, this is what's happening. And that is a shock. I was in dinner the other day, and some of the guests were speaking, saying how they just can't do this dating thing, you know. But interestingly enough, other folks at the table, there was like three couples, and they had all met on Match.com. So there's pros to cons to everything. There's hope everywhere, But it is, a big issue, something that we truly have to process. We've been in a relationship so long, and now we're like grown folk, and now the hip thing to do is hop on an app, and it's like, how the hell am I going to do this thing? So, like I said, folks, they met a match, and they met, all of them were married now, so it's possible. Anyhow, all of this is completely natural in this stage. But what's important to notice, to always find ways to cope, to seek support. This is an important stage to find connection with others, even if it's challenging, because that part of you is going to want to isolate. I know I'm a big isolator, but also that's where I find my strength, is just, in solitude. But if that is not your character, and you're an individual that before this loss, you were very social, you're going to want to resist, as challenging as it may be, and maintain these connections. They can, in essence, provide a sense of comfort for you and a sense of belonging. The final stage is the stage of acceptance and healing. This stage is in essence where the healing begins. This is when we come to terms with our reality, where we begin to let go of the past and look forward to the future. Now, it doesn't mean that we are forgetting, that we are dismissing the loss. This stage is really about integrating the experience into our life, and perhaps cutting our losses, trying to take the lessons out of the experience, and processing the loss from that perspective, where we're looking to learn from it and rediscover ourselves through it. And this is the stage that then we begin to reconnect with friends and perhaps explore new hobbies that could lead us into new levels of self-awareness. In this stage, also, forgiveness is also plays a very strong part. You know, this is, again, you know, it's not about forgetting or condoning what happened or what was done for you, but this is really about releasing the anger, the resentment that you were feeling and that may have been holding you back from experiencing the healing that you're seeking. This is where you forgive yourself, where you forgive the other individual, and you just forgive and commit to move on. Forgiveness, in essence, is a gift that you give yourself. This is what's going to allow you to move forward with a lighter heart, with a clearer mind. And this comes after you've gone through this process. This is, I would say, one of the most important things, if not the most important things that you can do for yourself, is practice forgiveness with yourself. Don't judge yourself, the experience as you're going through the different what ifs. But ultimately, in concluding from that, by recognizing, understanding these stages, what we then is to create greater awareness and self-compassion with ourselves. Now, what I like to do with these last 10, 15 minutes we have is share some strategies that you can utilize to cope with that. One of my favorite strategies, in particular on processing deep emotions, is to do a candlelight meditation. It's something that I recommend to all of my students. Why is this? Because meditation is a practice that will help you cultivate inner peace. However, when you're processing deep emotions, it's hard to sit still. It's hard to try to calm your mind and clear your mind. But when you give yourself a focal point, as it is the candle flame, it naturally helps clear your mind as you focus your gaze on the dancing flame. It effortlessly settles your mind and allows your thoughts to gently drift away. The flickering flame, you know, acts as this focal point, grounding you and helping you connect deeper with your own self. It's like this gentle, rhythmic movement of the flame, you know, just having this calming and soothing effect on you. So I recommend you do that, you know, 15 minutes, and, you know, twice a day will be beautiful for you. It's just going to help you really cultivate this sense of inner peace. Another thing that's very powerful is journaling. Journaling is incredible for anything you're going through, but particularly when you're going through some really tough spaces. It can provide a safe space for you to vent. Because let's face it, when we're overwhelmed with these deep and very strong emotions, some of the stuff that goes through our mind, we don't want to say out loud. You know, so the journal just creates this space where we could write it down, and we just burn it. Get rid of it. Because, you know, I have thought some real crazy things when I've been processing, you know, these deep pent up emotions. And journaling, having a place to put it, provides us with a sense of relief, a sense of clarity. It also allows us to track our progress. We can look back and be like, oh my God, it's like I wanted to end everything like right here, but I'm here now, and it's not so bad. So we can, you know, we can keep track on that. A couple of prompts, you know, to help you get started on that. And, you know, basically what you want to do is just kind of describe what you're feeling, the emotionally, the challenge, maybe explore some of the roots that might come up. You can write about a happy memory that you shared, let's say, with this deceased individual in your life. Reflect on some of the lessons you've learned in the experience and how it shaped you. Those are all things that you can do to kind of like prompt yourself, but really just getting yourself there and begin to just put pen to paper will be incredibly powerful for you. A third strategy I like to share is a ritual of release. Rituals are, in essence, symbolic ways for us to honor our emotions and our human experiences. They allow us to create a sense of closure. They allow us to mark a new beginning. And I highly recommend a fire ritual. Um, and to do this, what you're going to want to do is set an intention. You begin like you do all rituals. You want to begin by setting a clear intention for your ritual. Like what do you hope to accomplish? Like what do you hope to release? What do you hope to let go of? Focus on this intention as you prepare for your ritual. There is nothing more powerful in this world than the power of our intention. And then I advise you to commence a deep clean of your physical space. It's like spring cleaning. You want to just clean everything out. As you are cleaning your physical space, you are in essence cleaning your interior space. And as you're going through this cleaning, let's say if you're processing the loss of an ex, as you're going through this cleaning, you might run into like letters or some little knickknacks or things that remind you of that emotional connection you have to that ex. Well, you grab all that, you put it on a bundle, and that is what you're going to offer to the fire to sever that emotional ties. You know, you don't need every time you walk into the living space to see this thing that's going to be like, oh, grab that thing and you're going to feed it to the fire. If perhaps you are mourning the death of a loved one, then write them a letter. Express to them that you are releasing them so that they may rest in peace and for you to be able to move on with your life. This would be incredibly beneficial to both souls. And ultimately, what you want to do is create this sacred spaces where you're going to go, and it's, you know, you want it to be a quiet space, a safe space, and particularly if you're doing a fire ritual, so that you can burn these items. I also invite you to maybe burn some incense, play some music, do whatever you need to do to, you know, set the mood, the atmosphere for that. And when you begin the process, you know, take a few deep breaths, take a few moments with yourself, and truly express everything you're feeling openly. You could write them down, you can speak them out loud, or simply, you know, just say them in your heart. And then feed this note, this letter to the fire. Afterwards, what you want to do is reflect and express gratitude. You know, really take that moment to reflect, express gratitude, thanking yourself for honoring your emotion and taking the steps toward healing. And a fourth strategy is nature therapy. Go outside, get out of the house, get some sun, go to the beach, take a leisurely stroll at a local park, go for a hike, do some gardening. Any of these activities will help you harness the healing power of nature and help you move through this experience more effectively, because in essence, what it will do is that it will reduce the levels of cortisol within your body and release endorphins. These are the feel-good hormones. So in essence, you'll be decreasing the feel-bad hormones and increasing the feel-good ones, which will help improve your mood and reduce feelings of sadness and provide you with a sense of calm and connection to the world around you. And the last strategy I will share is that of support networks. This is where you're going to want to connect with your loved ones. This is going to provide you with a sense of belonging, a sense of understanding and comfort. And this is the space where I also ask, you know, you have these connections with your friends and family, but it's also very important to seek professional support. This is something I encourage, whether it's with a therapist or a coach. Why? Because it can be instrumental. You see, if you don't deal with your grief properly, it can become pathological. The difference between normal and pathological is the normal grief, the sad thoughts, the feelings, they occur in waves or bursts throughout periods of respite. Pathological grief is more persistent. This low mood, this agony, this aching that you are feeling, then elevates to a major depressive disorder, which is often tied to an unmet emotional childhood need or an unresolved trauma. This is where you find yourself behaving irrationally over the breakup or the loss. And it's usually because it's tied to another issue that you haven't properly addressed in your life. So uncovering the root causes is very important for you to truly heal and integrate the hidden parts of yourself. And ultimately, that is what I do in my Alchemy of Ecstasy personal transformation program, where over the course of 16 weeks, we meet once per week, and I provide you with personalized guidance and support to help you navigate your healing journey and come out on the other side triumphantly. If that's something that you might be interested in exploring, I will offer individuals that have registered, a complimentary discovery coaching sessions where we could hop on and explore your unique needs and see if we are in fact a good fit to work one-on-one. But at this point, what I like to do is just open for any questions that you might have. I'm gonna go through the chat and see if I missed anything. But do ask whatever you want. I know I shared a lot of information, and I tried to go fast and take very little breaks because we only had a very limited time. But utilize, I'm going to unmute you all. There you go. And then I'm going to go to the chat, see if I missed anything. How do you grieve a child who is alive but was abducted 15 years ago? Wow, that is powerful. I just came back from Atlanta. I was out there working on a TV show called Found. And I played this character who my child was abducted 7 years ago. And, I was processing that and going through that experience. That is something that is not easy to do, as it is with the entire grieving process. This is something that you most definitely are going to want to connect with an individual, receive guidance and support through it. It's not something that I can tell you do A, B, C, and D, and it's going to make the pain, the heartache that you're feeling with not knowing even if the child is alive or where they're at, what they could possibly be experiencing. This is something that the most ethical thing I can do is say that you should seek professional help. And as I shared, I'll be happy to meet with you one-on-one and discuss possible coping strategies to go through that. But it would be unethical for me to sell you some snake oil and tell you that pain is just going to go away. Does anyone else have any particular questions that you want to ask now?
Like when you're doing the meditation, let's say, and you're looking at the flame of the candle, is there any kind of prayer that you could say, or any? Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard you. So when you're doing the meditation, you don't want to do any prayer at all. Just focus on the dancing flames. That's all you're going to want to do. You can do, if prayer is your thing and you pray to a certain deity or whatever, you're going to want to do that beforehand as you're setting the intention. But not as you're actually going through it. When you're there, just focus on the dancing flame. If a thought enter your mind, if your mind drifts this way or that way, just bring it right back to the dancing flame. And that's easier to do than just, let's say, per se, focusing on your breath. The breath is a constant in our life. If we're alive, we're breathing. And we can find our breath anywhere we go and at any time. It's always there. So this is why it's such a common one to utilize when we are meditating. But in essence, what we want to do is find a focal point. And the dancing flames provide this focal point, and it's really mesmerizing. This is a beautiful way to even go even deeper and do self-hypnosis through that process. What you can do as you feel yourself deeply in that state of being where you're receptive is to then implement affirmations. But I wouldn't go and do elaborate prayers or blah, blah, blah. I would do the prayers before. If you, and once you feel yourself deep into that state, you can do affirmations, just one affirmation, just repeating, and that becomes almost like a mantra as you go into that experience. Is there any other questions? Very good. Well, I hope that you all found comfort and benefit in joining me today. It's been my pleasure. And I say ashe to all of you and have a blessed